And welcome back to Scissor Man Warrior, and I am excited. We have a Sith update. The Sith faction is going to be reworked completely. I think the only Sith that has not been reworked is Emperor Palpatine, and we all know Emperor Palpatine is phenomenal as he is. Now, a lot of you are going to wonder, how am I able to showcase these Sith updates when the Sith update actually has been delayed? And so the way it works is there's about 5 of us YouTubers who get exclusive early access. Now, that's not on our personal account to promote ourselves. That actually is a separate account that they give us, and then we have access to their developer account, so to speak, to be able to play and stuff. Now, they're working out all the kinks. Currently, what they do is they have us import our account into their account, and it gives us the access to the new updates, but we have to use our existing characters. So if you notice, what I'm showing off in the background is basically my characters, and if you notice, you know, from Dooku to Savage, I don't have them leveled up very high, and so some of these updates that they want me to showcase, I can't, because they haven't given me all of the characters completely maxed out. Now, in the future, that will be what actually happens. They will give us these characters maxed out so we can showcase them, but as of this moment, that's not the case. So what you see may or may not reflect the update fully, because I don't have each and every character maxed out. But we're just going to have some gameplay in the background of Sith kicking some major butt in different areas of the game. And then what I'm going to do is just go through some of the basics of the faction, of how the Sith have been reworked, and you guys can learn more about it. So first we're going to go over is Count Dooku. He's probably the most exciting rework on all of the Sith, because Count Dooku was a thing. Everybody loved him, especially for his annoying counter capability, but he was really a Jedi specialist, and we all know the first 6 months Jedi weren't that good, and so he kind of faded. Plus the evasion meta, which is really where he came from, faded months ago when Rebels took over. And so really he hasn't had a place for many people over the last 6 months. So now we all know that he has that ability where he can attack, and on his attack he can debuff the Jedi, such as ability block and things like that. Now that chance of debuffing Jedi is increased even more, and he can debuff anybody, even non-Jedi. So he can actually apply those debuffs across the board to any character. Also, they've given him an Omega on Hindering Press, his basic, which says that he can't be countered, which is really good against a lot of characters because there's a ton of counter meta. Specifically speaking, Chirrut and Baze. So when Chirrut and Baze get to counter, this is not going to allow them to counter his basic. Plus, it gives him an additional 15%. So the second, his special, his Force Lightning, it's very similar, to Emperor Palpatine's Lightning, but it doesn't do the same things, which didn't really make that much sense. And so there is now a chance to debuff is increased. The ability for him to debuff on his Force Lightning is increased, and the damage itself was increased, so it's just a little bit more potent. But then this is the cool part. Now, if you Omega his Force Lightning, you get a 50% chance to inflict shock, in addition to an additional 15% damage. So that's going to make him much stronger, and the shock, that's awesome. Now when there's lightning hitting people, it's going to be shocking them. That's cool. And then his unique Flawless Riposte, you can now Zeta this, which is really cool. Count Dooku is going to gain critical hit immunity for 1 turn and recover 10% protection whenever he counterattacks. Now we know he counterattacks crazy, off the charts. I mean, almost every single time he's counterattacking multiple times. So because of that, he's going to get that critical hit immunity and recover 10% protection, which is just absolutely nuts. So Count Dooku's rework, probably the best rework in all of the Sith. If you've had him sitting, collecting dust on the shelf, dust him off, bring him out. He's going to be fun. I never actually farmed him, never actually utilized him. I got him recently up to 7 stars. He's been sitting at about gear 3. I got him up to, I think, gear 6 over the last couple of days abilities, but really he's unimpressive. If you look on the footage, he's only got a couple bars of protection over him. I mean, he's really, really weak. Same thing for me with Savage. I've been reworking Savage, trying to get as much gear into him as possible, but you'll notice his abilities aren't that high in these videos. So I apologize. I didn't develop my Sith as much as I probably should have for this video, but hopefully in the future with the early access, they'll be able to actually give us maxed out characters like they have in the past. So let's go ahead and go to Darth Maul. His is pretty quick because they already reworked him in a number of ways, but basically his leadership ability, the Dancing Shadows ability, there's a Zeta update where the stealth and the turn meter from his ability, it now ignores taunting allies. So if they happen to have a tank to help them, because Sith currently don't have any tanks, this is going to give them the ability to not go stealth, which is an issue. So anybody that's on their team that's taunting, they're going to ignore this stealth and turn meter capability, and that's really, really good. So that way you can utilize a tank on the team, and that's definitely necessary in the Sith because 4 out of the 6 Sith are relatively squishy. They're pretty squishy characters. I mean, Darth Vader and Savage are the only two that aren't real squishy, so that's an issue. That's about it for Darth Maul, because we know he's been reworked already. Darth Sidious now has a number of things on his basic called Deathstroke. It ignores defense, and it no longer prevents critical hits. So in the past, when he would do his basic, it would ignore defense, but he didn't get critical hits. Now, he has that chance of ignoring defense and getting critical hits, which is really, really cool. And if you Omega it, it doubles that chance to ignore that defense if the target's debuffed. So if the target has any debuffs, which we know they will have, you're going to end up doing a crit and ignoring defense, which is awesome. And then, of course, they've increased the base damage that Deathstroke does, so it's more powerful when he hits. His special, Demoralizing Blows, they increase the damage to help you out with that, like they do with most characters. They increase the base damage, but they also gave it an Omega that will now inflict Expose in addition to the previous bonus. So that is really cool. Expose is awesome. Again, I wasn't able to showcase that because I don't have his ability Omega. But that is really great. Expose, what it does is it takes away 20% of their health. So their green bar of health, 20% goes away. That's huge. For most characters, that is a very large chunk, and it does away with characters like Baze very, very quickly, exposing them. So that's a great idea. I think that was awesome. As far as his leadership ability, Unlimited Power, if you Omega it, it now gives plus 1% critical chance more than it had previous, plus another 10% critical damage, and it gives Sith allies plus 2% offense until the end of a battle when they score a critical hit. So they get a one-time 2% buff, boop, if they hit critically. And they're all going to probably be hitting critically. That's how you're going to want to mod them. And so they're going to get that plus 2% offense almost guaranteed. So let's move on to Darth Vader. He's got a couple. His basic, Terrifying Swing, everybody kind of complains that, while it ability blocks, doesn't do a whole lot of damage. And so they increase the base damage of that, just like they're doing with everybody else in Sith. The other thing is the Omega ability that it's already had. They're giving an additional plus 15% damage in addition to a plus 15% ability block chance, which was already at 80%. So this is really, really cool that they've increased his basic. It just makes him even more effective and potent. And we all get Darth Vader, so this is exciting for everybody. And then his special, Force Crush, they didn't do anything to it other than they just raised the base damage that it does, which damage increase on any ability is great. When you got those basics and specials and they're just not hitting for quite enough, this is gonna really help for these Sith. So the last one that we have to go over is going to be Savage. And aside from Count Dooku, Savage is really the best of all of them that have been reworked, because Savage has really been pretty much the worst of all Sith in the game, and he has not really been usable. And I know a lot of people who love him, who've used him and said, oh, he's great, but really, if you play any amount of time and try him and use him, he just hasn't had that ability. So now we're going to go through all of it. They've reworked everything on him, and he's amazing. And I'm going to tell you why he's amazing as far as his leadership ability, because a lot of people are really dogging on his leadership ability and saying that it's really not that good. And I'll explain why it is super good and why you might want want him as the leader of your Sith. So you might notice I put him as leader in my video. For a number of these videos, he's the leader. And the reason for that, I'll go over in a second. So his basic, called Staggering Blow, they increase the damage, right? Just like they're doing with everybody. They're increasing damage. And it says it now always has a 50% chance to inflict offense down. And it's doubled on a crit. So it's a guarantee. It's a 100% chance of offense down on a crit. And so hopefully he's critting every time. You want to do that crit chance and crit damage on him for sure. That way you get that offense down. And what that does is really neuters the other team because they're not going to do nearly as much damage, which is super important because 4 out of the 6 Sith are kind of, glass cannons, so to speak. So his special, Overpower, now has an Omega where it says it will deal massive damage if a target has 50% health or below, in addition to the previous bonus. So really now, if any character across the board hits that yellow mark where their health goes down to yellow, you can use Savage's special and it's pretty much a guarantee kill. Boom, they're done for. It's going to be like just unlimited damage basically because they're doubling the damage it used to do, and it basically automated out at 99,999, like almost 100,000 damage, but it actually does more than that. That's just what the game bases out at. So it deals massive damage. This is a kill shot. This is amazing. This is really great for when the other Sith have worked a character down and you really want to just finish them off. This is how it's going to work. So that's pretty cool. The next is the leadership ability, and this is why I like his leadership ability. It changed to a percentage of defense, and then the defense maxes out at 75%. They're all really squishy except for Darth Vader and Savage. So what Savage is doing is he's giving the other Sith who are squishy glass cannon-y characters 75% more defense. That makes them way more durable. You really need them to be more durable. And what's really cool is the Omega ability gives him plus 15% defense more, and a plus 30% tenacity. Now, I want to talk about that for just a second. Anytime you're running a team that's a highly potent team, we're talking about Empire, Sith, anything like that, where you're trying to apply lots of debuffs to the other team, what your focus is potency, because potency helps you to apply those negative debuffs, right? So the one thing that happens when you're using all your mods and putting in potency and all that kind of stuff is your tenacity suffers. And most of the characters that apply these types of debuffs have low tenacity anyway. So the problem is you got these characters who can apply lots of debuffs, but they're all highly, and I mean highly, susceptible to debuffs themselves. So what happens is sometimes when the meta, meaning the characters everybody's using, when everybody's using the same thing, like right now on my leaderboard, my shard, everybody's using now Empire teams. I mean, it's Empire, 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 Empire. Well, how do you beat Empire? You play Empire, right? I mean, that's why everybody's going to Empire on my leaderboard, because that's what everyone else is doing. And sometimes the best way to beat a team is to use the same team. Now, I kind of refuse to do that. I've tried it a couple of times. It frustrates me that I have to do what everybody else is doing, but that there is logic in that, right? Sometimes the quickest way is from point A to point B is just to go in a straight line. Sometimes using the team that they're using is the most logical method. But what he allows for you to do is to use Sith, and it gives you a higher tenacity naturally. 30%, that's like a mod on everybody without having to use mods. So your team's going to naturally resist more of those debuffs that the other team is trying to do. Now, can you imagine using him as a leader and dropping a tenacity cross on every one of your Sith that you're playing? You know, they're going to have one heck of a time trying to apply their debuffs onto you. So it really throws a wrench in things. It's funny because normally Rebels or Jedi, they're higher tenacity, right? Clones because of their Rex potential. So what's really cool is this now gives Sith, who traditionally don't have much tenacity at all, that ability to resist debuffs, and durability with the extra defense, which may be the deciding factor when everybody's playing an Empire team or a Sith team. That may be the deciding factor between win or lose, is whether you can resist some of those debuffs and whether you can be more durable than the other team that you're fighting. So I like Savage. I really want to max him out and try him out as a leader. I think he would be phenomenal. I know he's in competition with, the leadership ability of Darth Maul and Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader. It's like crazy. They all have great leadership abilities. So it's rough, but I definitely want to try him out. I think it's a pretty interesting concept that they gave him. So the last is going to be called Unique Brute. And his unique is called Brute, and at the end of his turns, Savage is going to dispel all debuffs from a random other Sith ally, and then he gains them. So he's kind of like Barriss in the sense that she dispels somebody randomly at the end, and it's the one with the lowest health. He's just going to do it at random, one of his characters, and he's going to pull them and put them onto himself. Now, what's really, really cool is whenever Savage takes damage, he's going to gain his offense up and defense up, right? He's always done that, and heal over time for 2 turns. That's new, and he'll gain 30% turn meter, making him faster because he is kind of slow. And then at the end of his turn, he's going to dispel any debuffs on another random Sith ally and gain those debuffs for 1 turn. But it dispels all debuffs on Savage whenever he's critically hit, which probably is going to happen because of the meta that's happening. Everybody's critting everybody. I mean, we're all doing critical hits and critical damage to each other. So essentially, he's going to take their debuff, and then he's going to get hit, and it's going to go away. He's going to own it for a little bit. He's going to take it and own that debuff for a moment, and then it's going to help him. The debuff's actually going to help him, and then it's going to go away after it's helped him. So that's pretty cool. And then his Zeta ability for his unique is now going to gain heal over time when he's damaged, and his buff duration is going to be at an additional 1 round, plus 50% turn meter gain chance. Plus 50% turn meter gain chance. That's awesome. And he'll dispel all buffs whenever Savage takes a critical hit. So, like I said, basically he's gonna be a dispeller of sorts. He's gonna be able to pull one from a random ally, and then he's gonna be able to basically dispel it off himself if he takes a critical hit. And that's almost guaranteed to happen. But if not, then he can sit with those debuffs on himself. It's all good. So anyway, what do you think of the new reworks? What do you think about this program where they give us access? Again, like I said, currently in this video, I don't have access to anybody but my own characters. I've imported my own characters into this, and obviously my own characters aren't as overpowered as I would like. Someday in the future, they're going to be able to unlock us the characters maxed out, and it'll make for a little bit better gameplay to be able to showcase each and every character's abilities at max level. So that's pretty exciting. That will be coming in the future, but we're in a transition period. Now we at least have early access to this account. It's just a matter of putting everything in there so we can showcase it. As always, have yourselves a wonderful afternoon. Keep your gaming on. Warrior out.